gentlemen, welcome to GeekVerse Review. I'm Travis Snail. Getting close to 2019, but before we jump over to 2019, I just reviewed the latest Spider-Man DLC, just reviewed Bird Box. Last week, me and Taylor did Aquaman and Bumblebee. Me and Taylor not doing anything else. Me and Dylan are going to review the Black Mirror movie at some point. We got lots of stuff still dropping. Thought we were done for 2018, but pull us right back. No, you're not going to 2019. Pull us right back. So, this movie that I was very excited to talk about, Vice. And this movie I didn't know if we were going to be reviewing because I got a small theater. It came out Christmas Day, so that's why it's a few days late. That's why a lot of these reviews, Bird Box, stuff like that, Christmas family, GeekVerse podcast, Christmas party. So that's why you're wondering if you're a hardcore fan of GeekVerse and you saw 3 reviews drop in one day. That's why, because I'm playing catch up and I had to wait. Okay, family, get out of here. I gotta go home. I gotta do this. No, it's a great time. I hope you all had a good Christmas. Vice. This is a movie I've been very, very excited for ever since they announced it. Ever since they announced Christian Bale is playing Dick Cheney. Because one, Christian Bale is, I think, arguably the greatest actor. I honestly do. Arguably the greatest actor of all time. I'm not saying that just because he's Batman. I just think he is a guy that picks his roles very well. There's been very, very few movies that are awful that he's in. You'd have to throw them out, but it's a handful. And he's always good in them to great. And I think he is a chameleon. I think that maybe there's some, Terminator Salvation, but even then I feel it's different enough. I feel that since Dark Knight Rises, even then, I feel like since... When did The Fighter come out? I think it's 2010, right? Let me just check. Because I feel like ever since... Even then, no, I don't know. But I feel like lately, that's why I say there's Terminator Salvation, stuff like that. But yeah, 2010... He's been on a roll. He's been picking great roles. That's where, to me, now, anything that is really bad, he's cut out, and his agent's been like, yeah, no more Terminator Salvations. That's the only one I can really think. I've been trying to get my brain around it, but I've been a fan of Christian Bale since American Psycho. Saw that movie, and when Batman Begins was happening, and there were the early days internet rumors, and people were talking about Bale, and it was like, yeah, Bale was, or I don't even know if it was that, or if he was just cast, and I was like, this is great. And so he is a chameleon. I think he is a guy... For the most part, for 95% of his roles, he is always playing something different. He's never the same. He does not view... I never see Christian Bale. I see the character he's playing. And I think that's something big for somebody that's played Batman. And yeah, he's not a big mainstream star as far as he's doing a bunch of blockbusters. But once you play a role like that, not even typecast, you can just associate with him. That's Batman. You know, I feel like Michael Keaton got that for quite a while. I feel like Val Kilmer did. Bale's never let that happen. He was doing The Prestige around then. He was doing The Fighter. He was doing American Hustle. He was doing a bunch of Knights of Cups, which I know that Terrence Malick, some people might not like, but he was doing a bunch of things to keep himself in the conversation. One, I think, just like acting, but two, okay, maybe Mowgli, but he voice act that, so that could be another bad one. But he is just damn good at picking projects and transforming. Also, you know what he does? Water break. Like a Machinist, American Hustle, Batman Begins, now this. I think all around, I think he's underrated in the fact that not enough people talk about him as one of the best actors, at least in the past decade. I think I feel like that should not be a debate. I feel like people bring, who is it? It should be Christian Bale, the Bullet, even in the 2000s. I thought he was the actor of the 2000s. I still think he's the actor of that and maybe 2010. But I feel like once he gets old enough, my generation hopefully will be talking about him the way people talk about Brando. Because Christian Bale can do no wrong. He is just always evolving. He is always becoming something different and never playing the same role twice, unless it's a sequel. And even then he evolves that role. He's just an actor's actor. He is fantastic, and you don't hear about him being method and having to go live somewhere in the woods for weeks. He just does what he does, and he's always damn good. So he's one of my favorite actors because of that reason. Anytime he's on screen, I know I'm getting a great performance. You hear he's going to play Dick Cheney. That's fantastic. I'm a big fan of American politics. I guess I can say that this time covers... And I guess let's start talking about the movie. It's Dick Cheney, and it's covering his rise to power and then a little follow-up after. And if I feel like there's any big spoilers, I will... this is a movie that you can just watch along. If there's anything big as far as plot details and whatnot, I will not, as far as like a choice, and I'll explain that, I will not give those away. But for the most part, this is a movie about a real life figure, and it's very recent, so can't be a spoiler. It's real life. But there's certain choices that I will preference with and not spoil those. Okay, so this will be a non-spoilers review because with Academy Award movies, I like to do that because I come from a little, city, and I know sometimes you don't get these movies the day they release. So it's about Dick Cheney and his rise to power, and as him as a young man becoming the vice president. This time around politics, and I guess the best way to compare this to The Big Short is I'm a big fan of Adam McKay as far as Step Brothers, Anchorman, all the work he's done there. The Big Short, I can't even say that. I enjoyed it. Never watched it again. Never need to. It was more of a history lesson, and it needed to be that. But as far as a movie, I didn't connect with it as far as I need to see this again. Great performances. Again, another transformative performance by Bale. Carell, maybe one of his best performances. Pitt was good in there. Gosling. But I didn't feel I needed to ever see that again. And with this movie was the reverse of that. I did not know everything about, so I was learning stuff. Politics, I'm big into, especially American politics. My family has a cabin down in the States, and as a child, I spent a lot of summers there. Sometimes the majority of my summers were there. So I grew up there a lot in the summer, and maybe like spring break here and there. Every time we travel, there'll be a place to stay, or you can drive there and save yourself on a flight. So there you go. And I grew up there, lots of friends there, lots of big events happen there. And I have friends that are American and family friends that are American. And I plan on maybe, living there or having a place there. I have this cabin, so who knows, this will always be my family, hopefully. So I'm very tied to the States. And at that point is when we went down a lot, and I was older. I had a sister at that point. At that point when this stuff was going on, like Bush and Cheney, and honestly after 9/11, I feel like everyone took a big interest in American politics for the most part, but my dad did quite a bit, and he was really into it, and that kind of was handed down to me, and I know more about American politics, and I'm no historian, don't get me wrong, I'm not like that guy, I can tell you everything, but I'm more in American politics than Canadian politics, which is strange because I live in Canada, but I enjoy the system, I enjoy watching how it goes, and I just got more interested in that because in Canada it's pretty low key here. It's not, election's a big deal, but not that much. So this was not as much as a learning lesson for me, where I felt like I knew a lot of the bullet points going in. So this was more, and they even say up top, they say, a lot about Dick Cheney has not been documented, but we tried our best, and here's kind of our interpretation of that. And I think they did that very well. The movie, I'll put aside because I have some cons with it there, but here's a good pro. As of right now, I still have a few movies to catch from 2018. This is in my top 10 for 2018. It is, I think, in like that 8 to 10 slot, so it could get bumped down, but I really, really enjoyed it. The top-notch, best pro I can give it, and I think you can see it coming, Bale. Christian Bale is phenomenal. Amy Adams is really, really good. The reason I say it's because she's in it less, but she's great. Sam Rockwell's great. The cast is great. The movie is very stylized, and that works as a pro and a con, but I think for people that do not know about this, and they want to learn, this is a good movie for them. It is an entertaining movie from the cast. They do comedic things in it, much like The Big Short, so it's not just a full dry movie. The dramatic scenes and some more intense scenes, there's nothing like intense like some I just reviewed Bird Box, something like that, but there are intense scenes where there's a scene where just Cheney is standing in the Oval Office the first time he's gone to office, and he's just staring at it, and it's just quiet and it's lit a certain way where they make this man a scary individual. And that's the best thing about this movie is it makes you think, and it makes you really think about so much as far as politics and how's it work and this man. And that's where I would say, and I'll start with a different thing. Who I wouldn't recommend it to are two types of people. If you don't like politics at all, or you're just somebody that's kind of tired of politics in the world because we hear about so much, don't watch this. Wait till you go at home, Netflix, or at some other point. You're not going to enjoy it. It's not going to be a good time. The other people I'm not going to recommend to, I'm going to take a water break because it might make some people mad. And I did not mean to make that dramatic. I just breathed out to say it wrong time. I consider myself at one point Democrat, and now I go independent because of some stuff that happened last year. That's a after 9 cast we'll talk about. But if you're a type of person that don't want to hear whether you're right or left, if you don't want to hear an opinion from anybody else, no matter what, not for you. If you're the person that like on Twitter where I've seen even over comic book stuff, where it's not even an argument. I understand if you block someone, if they say, they call you a fuckface, they say your mouth should get cancer, fine, block them. But if someone says a point and they go, hey, no, I think it's because this happened recently with a comic thing that had to do with race, and I saw this, and me and like a bunch of people, we had these good conversations, and then I saw this one guy who I'm not going to listen with, a guy who's a writer and who's a podcaster. He came in with this thing and he said blah blah blah, and the guy said, hey, I think you're misunderstanding, or I think that he means it from this perspective. I don't think he's trying to be racist. And that person, who's very clearly left and Democratic, was just like, no, you're wrong, and he should be, he's a fool of a man. And then he blocks that person, and there's no conversation there. And that's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. I was a Democrat, and there's people that are more on the left. I see that all the time. I'm not trying to be that. It's the right does, left does it. Everybody does it. So if you're a person that gets easily offended, who you don't want to hear conversation or anything like that, then this is not the movie for you. You're just going to get mad, and that shows it too. It has a C+ cinema score. And I think that's because there's one scene, which we'll talk about in a bit, that I love is the reason it has that. Because it kind of looks at those people and says, hey, wake the fuck up and do something about this if you don't want this to happen again. And a lot of those people will put blame to everybody or not see their problems. But for me, it's something that, and that's what I'll start talking about now. My biggest problem why I got in my top 10 is there's a scene at the end. And it's not a big spoiler or whatnot, but it's a minor spoiler. So if you want to tune out, but really, it's just a choice they make. Everything has happened in the movie. And it's Dick Cheney, he's getting interviewed. I think it's something he's done in the past recent years, and it's that interview where he's kind of coming off a little like nonchalant, like, hey, this is a big deal and you should care more about this, but showing like, yeah, he's kind of a robot and he acts very methodical. But breaks fourth wall, very similar to Ray Liotta. That's the best way. If you've seen Goodfellas, it's his Ray Liotta court scene moment where he turns the camera and starts talking and kind of talking from his perspective, right? He does that. And the scene is, and I can talk about the rest of the movie how it works that way, but the scene is him talking and it's kind of from his perspective, or what they assume is his perspective. And he's saying, I did this, and I did this, and I did this, but I did this because I thought it was right. Not because I was a mean person, not because I was just out to hurt people or anything like that. I did this because I didn't want my family or your families to get hurt. I wanted to, I thought it was better to take these shortcuts or maybe lie or do this because it would protect people. I am in no way saying that I agree with his methods and what he did, but he pretty much ends it with, you know what I was here to do, and you picked me anyways, so I did it. And then it goes to credits. And it ends on like a very sour note, in a way that I was surprised, because for the most part of the movie, it's kind of, I think they kind of bounce back and forth for a little bit as far as not a good man, but a man who's not a complete monster, right? A man who loves his family, who's trying to do good, but also is trying to skew the system and is a man of power and wants to do things his way, my way or the highway. So they kind of get in the middle. As the movie goes on, it kind of gets more into he was a bad guy who did a lot of bad things, and then they show things that he maybe did against his family, which shows he doesn't have too many redeeming qualities. Where maybe if there was a great man there, or a man who had a backbone, that's kind of deteriorated, right? And that's the choice they make. So that's why I'm surprised at the very end of the movie, they kind of give the Dick Cheney character, in a sense, his moment to say, this is why I did it, this is the reasoning, and you chose it. And a lot of people could be mad about that, because the best way I could, and this is where it's going to get political, but the reason I'm not a Democrat person is because one of my favorite quotes of all time, and whether you're left or right, you make fun of me, but I really, really liked it when Michelle Obama, when they I can't remember what the setup was, but they talked about, and not all Republicans, just these Republicans, whoever's taking shots at the Obamas about, them saying, maybe talking with their family, this and that. And the quote was, when they go low, we go high. And the point of that is to be, hey, we're not going to take the low road. We're not going to go after the low-hanging fruit to talk about families or someone with disabilities, blah, blah, blah. We're going to beat you at the book. We're going to beat you in the numbers. We're going to beat you by having a debate or talking things out with you. And that's where, for me, some of that has gone away in the Democrat Party. So I'm not a Democrat, because lots of people, I get it is fun, but, if you make fun of Trump's weight or this or that, or his loser, I'm not saying this, but like his loser kids, this and that, and you're name-calling them, you can feel that way. I get it. But at the same point, that's something that I thought we weren't. I thought we were above that. And I didn't want to, when it comes down to politics, it's like, let's be about the issues. And I feel like if we didn't focus on Trump and his spray tan and this and that and everything like that, if we talked about his issues, people could have really actually got through it. But people just start name-calling, and then it becomes a name-calling fest. I know I'm getting a little political, but that's why I love this movie, because Adam McKay, obviously very political person with The Big Short in this, the movie calls out those people. And, for me, it's something of annoyance, but I think it was a very ballsy thing to do, because I do think that's a thing that people could walk away from this movie being pissed off at, being like, fuck you, I didn't choose this, blah, blah, I didn't vote for Cheney, I didn't vote for Bush. But it's the idea of Well, you still didn't do enough. You got to go out there and talk to people. You got even people. You got to go out there and vote. Because some people don't go out there and vote in America. You have to tell other friends to vote. You have to really think about things before you vote. Because if this was a Dick and Cheney or a Bush and Cheney one term, you could say that. But then they got 2 terms. They got reelected. So that's what I loved about this movie. As far as they had the balls to, they did take down Cheney. I really feel not take him down like, oh, he's scared, but in the way that they show that, yeah, he did. And if you've known before, he did some really messed up, borderline illegal things that have maybe really hurt America in the past few years. And I don't feel like it's not a situation too where, like Wolf of Wall Street a few years ago, which I didn't agree with, but people said, does this humanize Jordan Belfort? Does this kind of silver lining make it a hero story as far as plays it down, right? Like, yeah, he did a lot of shady things with tax and money and he evaded the law, but it's like, oh, but he had so much fun while doing it. Did he glorify what he did as being a criminal? I didn't feel like that because the end of the movie gets really depressing, but some people felt that, right? I don't think there's a case for this. I don't think they ever glorify Dick Cheney. I feel like he always feels like a villain. He's an antagonist, but he's our main character, an antagonist or a villain in the sense of this world. But you do get to see moments, quieter moments of him with his family. He goes, he's still a caring guy. They didn't just do what I felt, and this is what the world should be, and this is why I actually have big applause for Adam McKay, and I'll get into some cons after, some weird stuff, but it really felt that he tried his best to go, okay, let's try to go as down in the middle as possible until the story dictates, hey, look at all this bad stuff he really did, and we gotta cover it, and we'll still do it with class. It didn't feel like whatever the verse of a puff piece would be. A puff piece would be, I wrote something about Dylan Musk. I wrote an article about everything he's good at, and he's bad at nothing. He's the best podcaster and person in the world. Maybe he is. Shout out to you, Dylan. But the thing is, there's no like, oh, he could do this, he could do this. He doesn't like Batman enough. This didn't felt like a puff piece. Obviously, it was painting him as a villain, but it also didn't feel like a complete teardown. They went with some of the facts, right? And then when the facts come in, it goes, yeah, this guy's a shitty guy, but it has quieter moments with his wife and shows his motivation there. Great moments with his daughter. A great moment in the film which sets up, I'll talk about my cons after, but sets up that, he's running in a time where gay marriage is not a thing you can be pro, but his daughter is gay, she's for gay marriage, she wants to be married at that point, and he goes, hey, I can do this, this, and this, but if I'm going to run, we don't touch this, or I'm not involved with that. And, Bush goes, okay, that's the line. They do a great job of, to me, representing both sides as fairly as possible until you've got to make that divot to show, yeah, this guy, he had things where you could say, yeah, he was a monster. So I thought from that perspective, one of my favorite films of the year, probably in my top 10. Acting-wise, fantastic. Performances are great. I don't think Bale, though, will get a Best Actor because the thing is, I would compare it to First Man, where First Man had Ryan Gosling playing Neil Armstrong, right? Neil Armstrong known as a very quiet, docile, keeps to himself person, not much emotion. That was Buzz Aldrin. Gosling does that great, but it's not a flashy performance. That's where it's tough. It's not one note as far as Ryan Gosling acting. He does some great emotional acting in that movie, but for the most part, the character stays at, let's say, if we're on a scale 1 to 10, not as far as great, but just their excitement level, he stays at a 5. Sometimes gets a 6. His eyes or his face acting, because Gosling's great, can be at like a 9 or 10 because it's like he's showing the emotion of pure sadness or enjoyment from a moment or just a little smile that shows that he's in tons of pain but he's trying to work through it. I think Gosling does great, but I understand when you talk about like we're in award season, that's why we're doing these, as far as like a flashy performance, this is that, but it's not that at the same time. I think he'll get tons of noms, which he has, but obviously for Oscars coming up, he'll get nominated because it's like, man, he did a great damn job of portraying Cheney. But the thing was, you look at last year with Gary Oldman, when he did Churchill, every award show played that scene of him going, and we will storm about, like he gets really acted up or worked up, he's acting, he's shooting scenery. This movie doesn't really have that scene, and I felt the big scene could have been, and here's minor spoilers again, but they, like I said, they set up the whole, his daughter's homosexual, right? She's gay, and he doesn't want to touch that issue. And there's a trivial point where they've talked about this. It's kind of known a little bit in real life, but like they said, they try to get as much information as close as possible. That there's a moment where him and his daughter running, she has to throw her sister under the bus and say, I don't support gay marriage or anything like that. Just throw her, after the whole movie where they said we're not going to touch that, they throw her under the bus, and it's because Shane says, go ahead. But what does Chaney do in that scene? It's very Chaney. He just gives his daughter a head nod, like, you can do that. It's an emotional, you can tell that he is not feeling good about it, but he head nods, goes to paper, and just kind of ignores it and tries to pretend that he didn't do that. But it's not flashy. And with that moment, one, that's a con, which I'll get into later, of how they did that, in my opinion. But two, he just has to play Dick Cheney, who's always at like, I'd say a 6 or 7 above like Neil Armstrong as far as having personality, but it's always just Cheney. He's docile, yeah, well, that's what we gotta do. I'm not gonna try and do a Cheney, but it's just, it's quiet, it's submerged, but he looks like a lion like on the hunt, right? But you never get to see the lion really jump and kill anything because in his work, the lion has to stay quiet so he can't be seen, right? And that's the thing, and he can't make a ruckus. So that's where I think he will. I don't think he's a lock. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it was great, but it's not something like The Fighter where there's some standout, really emotional scenes, or something like The Machinist, or something like American Psycho. I feel like it's very docile performance because that's what you kind of have to be. It's a guy that's slow moving and has a heart attack, and he's kind of a little menacing and quiet. You can't also make it would feel out of place, same way as in First Man. It would feel out of place for him to have a yelling big scene. So I enjoyed that. I felt that was faithful to what they're going for as far as the man, but as far as performance, I don't think that will get him the win because they love having those type of things. So I wanted to mention that. I'll talk about that predictions again probably. But he is great. He just feels like Chaney. He sinks in that role. I don't see Bale. Even when he's younger, it looks a bit more like Bale. I don't feel like it's Bale at all. Amy Adams, the reason I didn't say she was fantastic is just because she is fantastic, but she's in it not as much. It's the same thing where she gets one, I think, really, really great scene at the beginning, but then the rest of that is kind of Dick's sometimes good, sometimes bad, kind of moral compass. But she's not in it as much. She's not in it, I guess they were trying to do supporting. She's not in it as much as I would like because I liked her, but I understand because it's Dick Cheney is Vice, that's the poster, that's the guy, so I understood, but she was great in what she was doing. One day, she's not going to get an award for this, but one day, damn, she deserves an award. Carell, Rockwell, great. I would have liked to see more. I think Carell would like to see more, but I would have definitely liked to see more of Rockwell's Bush, but it was good for what I got, but I don't think it's in as much as I was hoping, because I feel like they set up the relationship really good, but a little lacking. They show a few times how he maybe manipulated Bush and how Bush, I like that they're talking about he's just doing this for his father. Like, they talk about and hint that Bush is running for election or running for office for much different reasons, and they touched upon that, but they don't really get into it. And that's where I'll transition to my cons. One of my biggest cons is the end of the movie. It goes very quick. It doesn't really have a big ending, and all the stuff is done. Because at one point, there's some information Dick Cheney gives up that is very crucial information, but it's just a scene like, hey, what should we do about this? Leak the information. Okay, they cut away, come back to it later. That's the thing. All the big stuff that happens because of how they're covering it, it can't be big and bombastic. It's very small and very subtle. So there's not a big end point where you feel there's an ending. There's when they kick out Rumsfeld, that is your closest to, oh, this is the big dramatic moment, but it's not even long enough to feel that way. The ending is just eventually that, oh, hey, they're in some trouble, they might be investigated, his heart's working up again, oh, and Obama's president. The ending is kind of rushed. It just feels like it comes out of nowhere, like we're just moving into it, and I guess the ending is him getting another heart, but that's something where it's like we kind of know that, and there's not much emotion in that because we're kind of not pulling for him, which is a weird way to say it. Like, you don't want to wish death upon anybody, but it's like, this guy's done so much shit. It's like, why should some young guy die and have to give up his life so he gets his heart? I'll talk about that in a second. So the ending to me was not the strongest, and that's where Conrad I was referring to earlier is when his daughter is saying, what are we going to do? I'm losing the election because this tie to gay marriage thing. They cut away from that. We don't know what happens, and it just shows the daughter on the news saying, hey, I don't support gay marriage, and then the other daughter phones and says, Dad had to give clearance, and she's very upset about this. And then later on, maybe about 5-10 minutes later, we come back to that scene of Cheney with his daughter talking about running for office in a montage, and like, what are we going to do? And he just gives the head nod and he goes to his newspaper. To me, the whole movie, they've built up at least that this guy's done some terrible things, but he loves his family and especially loves his daughter, and he made the rule of, no gay marriage. I felt like that was your big moment of the movie. That could have been the big ending or close to it. And it felt very just kind of on to the side, where to me that was one of the bigger moments because that was like, it felt like his last kind of touch to humanity as far as we know in the character in this movie. And it's done by, I don't like that they cut away from it because it's a dramatic moment. They cut and then they come back to it later quickly in a montage. I didn't enjoy that, and because we know that Cheney's the one that's gonna give it. Even the next scene after is his daughter calling saying, you gave my sister clearance to do that. Why not let that scene hang? Let it be a bit more dramatic. I digress, but I wish that could have been hit a little harder for me to kind of get in that perfect score territory. And then my last thing I think I'll say about this before I get into rating is, McKay loves comedy. Clearly, he loves a comedic movie. I have no problem with that, and I think what I appreciate is The Big Short. I enjoyed it. I've never watched it again, never will, but I appreciate that it was something different and he took a risk with it. This is the same where it's very much in the same way in The Big Short, that he takes a lot of style choices, he changes up. It's not your formulaic point A to point B movie, whether it's through flashback, whether it's through the way he's chronologically telling the story or he's not, or certain choices. And this is where there's a minor spoiler, so if you want to not know much about the film, skip 30-45 seconds, because this is like a director's choice. Right in the middle, when it looks like Dick Cheney's career is over in the middle of the movie before he gets the vice president call, they do this thing where it's like the end of the movie of like they show lyrics of like, and the Cheneys lived happily ever after, and they were never in politics, and they start rolling the cast, and it's like only been 40 minutes of the movie, and they start rolling the cast, it's all happy music to show like, look what could happen if he just retired, right? That's a great, fun choice, and that's where his movie, the stylization of it, can really work, and that I would want a bunch of these in The Big Short, opposed to a lot of other movies out there that I just forget or I've seen, like, I'll never watch this again, and there's nothing memorable about it. There's a great dinner scene I won't spoil with Alfred Mullaney, who, it's so good. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to spoil it. It's him with a lot of other politicians, and when you see it, you'll know, and it's very well done. That style is great. There's other stuff of weird cuts, very loud noises. They associate Dick Cheney with a lot of hunting animals and whatnot. That sometimes take me out of it, and even just, it's weird, but like the quality of the videos look like YouTube grade low, and it takes me out of it. So that's where, for me, I compare Adam McKay, which is, he does comedy, to a stand-up comedian, or sometimes like a Deadpool movie, where there's going to be a lot of jokes here, and not all of them are going to hit. Maybe luckily for you, if all of them hit, then you found your favorite comedian. But for me, a more hit this time than Big Short, but there are still one, and I respect it. I'd rather have them in there, but there are times where it takes me out of it, and I do go, there's times where the worst ones do make me go, I do sometimes wish that this was just a regular told biography, whether it was A to B or even some flashbacks, but just no style. Let's just get to the character and the drama. But then there's other stuff where he does where I go, that was great. That was so smart. I love that. That was really unique. I want more of that. So I'd say this was like a 65-35 as far as not the comedy, but like that type of stylized stuff working. And he likes to make his movies different, and he still likes to keep a lot of his comedy tendencies in there, which I think work, but it sometimes do take me out of it, because most of my favorite movies are more darker and dramatic, so I that can sometimes rub me the wrong way. It's the best way I can compare it, and if you're watching this, if you just like Oscar movies, you won't care, but there was moments of they're like, hey, he might direct, not moments, but there was rumors going around that he might direct Guardians 3. He's the type of director where I like his style. I'm going to watch every movie he does, I think, because I'm a big fan of what he's done so far. But I don't want him doing one of the franchises I love. That's the way where it's like, I like that, but I don't like it enough to trust him with characters I really love. If it's a character I don't care about, then fine. Go, even Howard Duck, go do that. But if it's something like established, he's making a Batman movie, he's going to do this, or something like they were talking about Fantastic Four, it's like, no, I don't want that. He has a very unique style, and when it hits, and when it doesn't, for me, it's like a kind of a fire in the wind. It's a strikeout. So that's what I thought about with Vice. Thank you very much for listening. I guess I should review this. No, scores. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. There was those cons that, to me, it was a great movie, great performances, some really good moments of drama, and it's a movie that does a good job of educating you, or for someone like myself and others that know stuff, re-educating you, and just makes you pissed off at the exact same time, in a good way. I hope it's on the way where people were like, oh yeah, I didn't do this, like I don't like that message again, screw you, I didn't vote for Cheney, I'm trying to change the world, I don't care about this man. You gotta care about this man, not in the sense of you gotta like him, but you gotta care about him in the sense that, yeah, it pisses me off, but it pisses me off because it goes, well, we gotta learn from history or it's doomed to repeat itself, and that has a lot of vibes and a lot of themes in this movie, as far as what's going on in the government right now with states. And you clearly know whether you're on one side or the other. It's a very hot topic debate. That was a very hot topic time, and that kind of shows it. And I guess I didn't mention, if you've seen the movie, the Jesse Plemons stuff, I need to watch again whether I like that or not. Sometimes I liked it, sometimes I didn't. I think on a second watch I will kind of settle down if I like that being the movie, you know. But I would lean towards that I liked it as far as being one of your bigger plot threads. So thank you very much for tuning in. If you like what I do or the rest of the crew do, check out all our reviews. Head to the description below, and you can subscribe, like, review. Please do that because, one, you can get content right away. You can follow our Twitter and Facebook to know, but if you subscribe, you'll get the stuff right away with no hassle at all. And review and comment. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you like those choices, and review it. Give us a positive review because that helps us. We like meeting new fans. We like interacting with fans. And if you like what we do here and you can't have any money to spare, then please, that helps us out big time. And if you do have money to spare and you really like what we do, head over to Patreon for $1. You get half our content for $5. You get all of it. It's some good stuff. If you got some extra money hanging around because of Christmas, we got early content on there. We got 2019 previews. We're going to have some really fun retros coming up. So thank you very much for tuning in. When you hear from me next, it'll not be boring.